Welcome to this edition of News Brief. Let's get you caught up on the news you need to know for the week. Well, boy, it's good to be back in the fly-in business. Last weekend we had our first AOPA Hangout at Felts Field in Spokane, Washington. The AOPA Hangout is a relaxed fly-in format. It's a place to gather, spend time, and, well, just hang out. The Spokane Hangout welcomed over 1,000 registered guests and 150 fly-in aircraft over the weekend. Now, there was smoke from wildfires in the region, and that was thick in the air, but the field stayed VFR, which was good news for folks flying in. The Hangout featured fire pits, live music, and there's a place to gather and visit to enjoy all of that. Now, there's also some programming you'd expect from an AOPA event.
I just had a training flight this morning, and I didn't even know this was going on until, I landed and I saw a bunch of things out. I was like, all right, cool, I'll poke my head in. It's been 11 hours since I came here, so.
Not a bad spending of a day.
No, not at all. I absolutely love it.
You can read about it and see a slideshow of photos from the event on our website. That's going to give you a great feel for how the event was. Now, we have another AOPA Hangout coming up in November. That'll be at Tampa Executive on the 4th and 5th, so be sure to come to that. There'll be music, food, seminars, exhibits, and all kinds of fun. Of course, you can hang out in the popular 3-9 Lounge and watch the STOL demonstrations. I've heard that's the best place to watch those demonstrations, so we hope to see you there. Now, one of the more popular things at the Hangout was the STOL demo, and some of the best pilots from the Northwest and beyond gathered to show off their skills. The crowd at the Hangout got to see 3 different demonstrations, everything from a Travel Air and a Stagger Wing to Cessna 170s and Cub-type aircraft. Backcountry expert Mike Vivian narrated the demo, giving great insight into what the pilots were doing. It was a really good real-world exercise for the pilots, too, because it was hot with a high-density altitude and shifting winds, and that's always tricky in tail draggers. So they really had to work for their short distances. Well, what goes up must come down, sometimes a lot sooner than expected. On Monday, the launch of Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket ended rather abruptly when the booster caught fire. The escape system worked as designed, pulling the uncrewed capsule away from the rocket and parachuting safely back to Earth. There's no word yet on what went wrong, but it's nice to know that if you ever have the money to go where William Shatner has gone before, the safety system works. Now, if your spaceship crashes, who are you going to call? Well, the FAA and National Transportation Safety Board have sorted it all out. They just signed an agreement. If a commercial space launch or re-entry mishap causes a fatality or damage to property not associated with the spaceflight, the NTSB will investigate. The FAA will lead the investigation of other accidents. And that pretty much mirrors the division of responsibility when it comes to aircraft accidents. And that agreement was inked 22 years ago. Well, the FAA and possibly the NTSB are looking into an accident involving a Cirrus SF50 Vision Jet. This may be the first time the Cirrus Airframe Parachute System, or CAPS, has been deployed in an actual emergency in a Vision Jet. The aircraft was flying from Opa-locka to Kissimmee Gateway Airport, and the weather was pretty challenging.
Kissimmee Airport information, Romeo, time 1856 Zulu, winds 230 at 17, gust 20, visibility 2, thunderstorm in the vicinity, heavy rain, ceiling 3,600 broken, 4,800 overcast, remarked lightning distant north and southwest.
But that wasn't the weather at the time of the accident, and we don't know yet what weather information the pilot had. The Vision Jet reportedly entered severe turbulence and heavy rain. The pilot popped the chute, and the aircraft hit in a swampy area. Rescue crews had to bushwhack to get to the aircraft, but thankfully, all 3 people on board survived. Now, again, we don't know yet why this accident happened, but we do know that the ATIS wasn't reporting the exact weather at the time of the accident. A METAR recorded 5 minutes before the Vision Jet went down showed the wind at 23 knots, gusting to 28, 1 3/4 mile visibility, and a thunderstorm. The ATIS didn't update until some 40 minutes after the accident. So something for you to take note of, ATIS is usually updated once an hour. The FAA book says ATIS should be updated upon receipt of any new official weather like a METAR, but even that doesn't ensure that what you're hearing is what you're going to get. And if you have any doubt, just ask the tower to give you the current weather. No problem at all. Well, are you ready for some football? Yep, we're already in week 2 of the NFL season already. And just a reminder, stadium TFRs. And it's not just the NFL. If there's a game in a stadium that seats 30,000 or more, there will be a temporary flight restriction around that stadium starting 1 hour before the game and ending an hour after. The TFR has a 3 nautical mile radius and extends up to 3,000 feet AGL. So, as we like to say, and so we do, check NOTAMs. And we know that most of you are self-briefing nowadays. You get your weather and NOTAMs via apps or on the web, and well, the FAA knows that too. So the feds just launched a new online course for IFR students and pilots. The course is intended to show you how to conduct a thorough, safe, and legal self-briefing before launching into the clouds.
The goal in Step 2 is to use online resources to collect weather and aeronautical information so you can determine if risks are present that can affect the safe operation of the planned flight.
Well, the course is comprehensive, so allow yourself plenty of time to work through it. And you can earn wings credit for successful completion. You can find the link in the description below this video. Well, and speaking of IFR flight, on our YouTube channel this week, AOPA's Dave Hirschman flies the ILS approach into Monterey Regional Airport. Hot, rising air over the inland desert pulls cool Pacific air against the coast, and, well, morning fog is the result. During Dave's approach, there's sunshine on top at 2,000 feet, but the ceiling is just 300 feet.
500.
It's less than 1 minute of instrument flying time, but it's legit.
Autopilot. Minimum.
Find the link to more of the approach in the description. And there's some good news for all of us who rely on GPS to fly our instrument approaches. The National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine has just issued a report that concludes that Legato's cell phone service is not likely to interfere with most commercial GPS receivers. Congress asked for the report after a lot of groups, including the Departments of Defense and Transportation and aviation organizations, including AOPA, objected to the FCC giving Legato a license to operate in frequency bands adjacent to the GPS bands. But the report says no problem for aviation. However, it also says military GPS and some high-precision receivers used for farming or surveying might experience interference. Well, we've all made mistakes in our flying, forgotten to do something, or maybe skipped something on the checklist, or bitten off a little more than we could chew. Well, the AOPA Air Safety Institute has just released a new pilot short story about a new pilot and the mistakes that led to a touch-and-go disaster.
I remember going further down the runway than normal as I jammed the throttle in, looking at the end of the runway and seeing the silhouette of trees. In order to clear those trees, I knew I had to climb pretty well since I'd ate up so much runway, so I kept pulling and kept pulling on it. You know, the last thing I remember was pulling.
Well, you can learn the final outcome of this flight by watching the video on the Air Safety Institute YouTube channel. The link is in the description. Well, we told you last month about a new seaplane service between New York and Washington, D.C. Well, the CFRA, that's the Washington Special Flight Rules area, strikes again. Tailwind Air had planned to launch a shuttle service between the New York Skyport Seaplane Base in Manhattan to College Park Airport just outside Washington, D.C. using amphib caravans. But because College Park is within the CFRA, there are extensive security requirements, including TSA screening. Tailwind thought they had met all of the published requirements, but some security agencies raised additional concerns, and the shuttle service is now on hold while they work through that. Now, a possible delay for the rollout of supersonic air service, Rolls-Royce won't continue its program to develop the engines for the Boom Supersonic Overture airliner. Rolls says the supersonic market isn't a priority for them right now, so Boom is looking for another engine partner. Both United and American have committed to buy the supersonic airliner. No word yet on whether Boom is still going to be able to make its scheduled first flight in 2025. Well, now something on the opposite end of the aviation spectrum. That's the Golden Age Air Museum in Bethel, Pennsylvania. They held their annual Flying Circus Air Show on September 3rd and 4th, and this year they had, in addition to the show, the Fokker Scourge. This was the largest known gathering of the Fokker DR-1 since World War I. Now, these are triplane replicas powered by original rotary engines. There are no known original triplanes left, and the Fokker event was coordinated by Chris Hill, who is the pilot and owner of one of the rotary triplanes.
This engine here is the 120 horsepower Lerone. It is a rotary engine. It isn't a radial configuration, so all the cylinders stick out from the motor, but the difference between a radial and a rotary is the whole thing turns. So you can see the cylinders turn with the propeller, and that's what makes it unique as far as aviation development. But I find the enjoyment in vintage airplanes where you're flying by the seat of your pants and you have to be the master of the airplane or it'll make a fool of you. So I really enjoy that aspect. And so far, I've stayed on the right side of being the fool, but it doesn't take much, and I just really enjoy the challenge.
The old Rhinebeck Aerodrome also sent their replica Sopwith Pup, powered by an original rotary engine, to the show. You can find the full video on our YouTube channel. The link is below in the description. And that's it for AOPA Pilot News Brief for this week. Thanks for watching. We hope to see you again next week.